Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got an amazing upload to share with you. It's kind of encounter, legend, lore, supernatural. I don't know how to explain it. But before we get into this, let's get into the links. My first link I'd like to share with you is Tromic's Lead Delivery System, home of the original 458 and owned by Tony Remora, true American. He designed an AR upper to be attached to your existing AR lower and blast 458 instead of 223 and 556. He designed this for our troops in the Middle East to blast out truck bombs. Now, straight across the board, guys. If this is going to stop a truck, a 458 is going to stop a Dogman. His link is in the description below, and please check out some of Tony's other amazing products. On to my links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below as well. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. I also started a GoFundMe page to help raise some money for Urbex, cryptid, and ghost hunting equipment. I have an EVP recorder, an SLS cam, and some trail cams. And I've been fiddling with them for a little bit and getting acquainted with them. And I'm feeling pretty well adjusted to them. And I feel like this weekend I'm going to be doing some investigative recording for you guys. Now I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with this upload. Shall we? The Demon Dog of Valle Crucis. Near the town of Boone, North Carolina, there's a little town called Valle Crucis, or Valley of the Cross, so named for the three streams which meet in the center of the village, forming a rough cross. There exists an old legend about two young men who encountered what is known locally as the Demon Dog of Valle Crucis. Their story is of an otherworldly pursuit of their vehicle by a phantom canine which appeared from behind an old stone church on the outskirts of town, St. John's Episcopal. When I was a child, my family would vacation outside of Valle Crucis every winter. On two such trips, I had encounters with the very creature. The following is an account of my first experience. I was 10 years old and excited for another winter at the family mountain house. We didn't own it, but my grandma and all of the families on my dad's side could afford to rent it once a year. The house is located outside of Valle Crucis, off of Old 194. To get the access road, you drive past St. John's Episcopal and accompanying cemetery, the supposed stalking ground of the Demon Dog. Of course, I wouldn't learn of the old legend until years later in college. For 8 years, I had no idea that I wasn't the only one to see it. The first year that we ever rented the house, it dumped almost 2 feet of snow, and in the years since, it had been disappointing by comparison. This year was supposed to be a big one. And it was scheduled to hit our vacation week. As you might guess, myself and my cousins were so excited to learn there was ample snow coming. But first, we had to stock up. Everybody needs milk, sandwiches, right? That night, as it was getting dark and the first flakes started to fall, it was decided from the grocery run needed to happen. My uncle volunteered to drive into nearby Boone and pick everything up. I asked to go because he's my favorite uncle, a funny guy, always quick with a dad joke or a prank. I figured if nothing else, I'd get some good laughs out of the short trip. We worked down the gravel drive and eventually hit 194 and took a left and started heading towards the main valley. Now, fully dark out, we pass St. John's Episcopal, the old stone church, sitting quaintly there among the dark woods. I can't say how far after the church it came upon us, unleashed itself, to say the least, with every pun intended. I didn't notice a thing being a kid at all, not at first, anyway. The first thing I did notice was my uncle adjusting and constantly checking the rearview mirror. The expression on his face was concerned, if not dire. Something was not right. We continued on our way, and I noticed our speed increasing to a level not safe for such a mountainous area. We were probably doing 60 on a hairpin lane. About the time I realized something was wrong, I looked at my uncle. I'd never seen real fright on a grown man's face until then. He was looking in the mirror as much as he was the road. I turned and looked. Behind the truck was a pair of eyes, red, but not like glowing red. They were burgundy, without any illumination. It's something you can't easily explain. It was like two smoldering ambers burning, and they locked me in. I came to a few seconds later, though it could have been an eternity and a half in my mind. Time had done something wrong. There was a knocking right on the back window of the cab of the truck. Whatever had been following us was in the truck bed, and I knew it and he knew it. I felt the pickup lurch as he gunned the throttle. I was holding out hope and that it was a prank, that my other uncle was the one cackling his ass off in the back of the truck, that it was a sick joke I wasn't ready for, but his face suggested he was in the same boat as I was. Then I heard the knock at my window. Whatever it was, it's now essentially floating beside us at a dangerous speed for such a road. It was tapping on my window, beating on it. I looked over at my uncle as he looked past me and out whatever lay beyond. He told me not to look. Whatever happens, he said, don't look out that window. I didn't look. It would be years later before I learned what he had saw that night. It was 4 years later when I had my second encounter with the demon dog of Valle. I was 14 years old. At that time, I had been allowed to bring a friend. My sister did as well, considering our older cousins were away at school and we had the extra room at the mountain house. My friend Stephen is still my best friend, even though we're grown men. I've known him since we were 3, and he's the first person I ever remember playing with. We understand each other almost on a telepathic level. I took Stephen with me that year, and we were enjoying yet another snowy trip to the lodge. We were snowboarding like things possessed in the backyard of the property, and we're in hog heaven as far as we're concerned. One afternoon, we all piled into my grandmother's van, a touring van, somewhere between a Honda Odyssey and a full-blown RV. I know some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we picked our way down the old gravel drive onto old 194. We crossed through Crucis and into Boone, North Carolina, where the whole clan of us enjoyed a meal at the Daniel Boone Inn. If you ever get a chance to eat there, definitely do. We left the restaurant around 8:45 and began our trip back to the house. I was in the back with my friend, not the back seats, just the back cargo area of the van. Our main view was the back window. In the back passenger seat was my little sister and her friend. Up front, my mom, dad, aunt, and uncle. My uncle was driving. The rest of the crowd had gone ahead in a smaller vehicle and were not in sight. We were about 3/4 of the way from the house and when we passed St. John's Episcopal Church. Then the van stopped. The entire engine just crapped out on us. But I wasn't fooled. I'd seen this trick before. My uncle loved to stop on that desolate road and pretend we're stranded. He'd get out, look around confused. Well, kids, it looks like we're stuck out here. But no such joke nor punchline was followed. He didn't laugh at our terror and restart the van. He just sat there and looked at my dad. The look on his face was not jovial. It didn't seem like a joke this time. But I played along. I nudged my friend with my elbow and gestured my head toward my sister and her friend in the van seats ahead of us. It was as if to say, watch this, it'll be funny. But it was not funny. When I nudged him, he made no response. He had his eyes dead affixed to the back window, as if he was in a trance. Then I saw it as well. Behind the vehicle and just behind the light of the brakes, there was this thing. It had the head and scruff of a great black wolf. The body was of a man, though. The arms were too long, and it was standing upright on two muscular legs. It just didn't make sense, but whatever it was, it had my friend deadlocked through the eyes, and he was absolutely mortified. About that time, my mother saw it as well, at least I think she did, though she won't talk about it to this day. All I heard was her screaming for my uncle to start the car and move. The van rumbled a few seconds later. We started back down the road toward the house, and all the while my friend Steve and I were looking out the back window. What we saw makes me shudder to this day. The creature dropped down and was running behind our vehicle on unnatural fours. The way it ran was crazy. I still lose sleep about it, like it was a running ahead of time. It was so smooth and graceful, but I'll never forget how disturbing it was in its locomotion. Nothing natural should move that way. Watching it run locked me in, and everything around just kind of melted away. The worst part was that we were not losing it. We were easily doing 60 miles an hour on this desolate highway, but it was right behind us, right behind the van. Its face was like an exaggerated cartoon of a wolf, but all too real. It was just something out of a nightmare. What I remember most was its eyes, like two cigar ambers, but with a yellow iris unmoving and a deep, dark black pupil in the center of each hellish orb. They were transfixing, hypnotic. I guess maybe the fear overwhelmed me because the next day I woke up in my bed at the mountain house. It was morning, and to this day my friend Stephen can't talk about it unless he has a few drinks in him. And even then, he can't have a serious conversation about it. I think he hides behind humor, but I know he remembers it just like I do. It'd be over 10 years before I brought up these experiences to family. It seems a mighty touchy subject, but I did manage to talk to my uncle about it. What he saw out the vehicle window that night so many years before had been the exact same thing I saw behind the van a few years later. We both know what we saw, even though my mom just says it was a large wolf. It wasn't a wolf. Stay out of the valley at night. I told you guys, what an amazing set of encounters. I mean, we've all heard of the demon dogs of Leeds, the black shuck, hellhounds, but this one was standing like a dogman, like some supernatural dogman from hell. Just so scary. And like I said, this is definitely a place I want to save some money for and check out. This story I have a big smile on my face because I am just so intrigued by it. Horrified but intrigued. I could not imagine what that kid was thinking when he saw this thing, just standing there behind him. And then to gain speed, drop on all fours, and continue to do the same pace the van is doing. Just wow. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. And like I said, try looking it up. You guys will definitely enjoy what you read about it. Anyway, have a great day, guys, and I bid you farewell.